My mother looked me in the eye and said, "Sorry, Madeleine, our hotel is fully booked. You'll have to stay somewhere else." The woman didn't even blink. And the worst part? It was our family's hotel, the one my parents built and I grew up cleaning rooms in as a teenager. I stood there, suitcase in hand, watching guests walk in while my own family acted like I didn't exist. If you've ever been treated like you were nothing, just wait till you hear what happened next. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This story will blow your mind. They had no idea that the broke daughter they threw out years ago now owned the entire chain. But I didn't say a word. Not yet. I wanted to see how far they go this time. When I lost my job years ago, my parents were the first to laugh. "Madeleine, not everyone's made for business," my dad said while handing me a mop. They made me clean the lobby floors, saying it would build character. I stayed quiet. I learned every corner of that hotel, how it ran, what guests loved, where money leaked. And when they finally kicked me out for being too ambitious, I left without looking back. For the next 6 years, I worked in silence. I waited tables, slept in a shared apartment, and studied every night. No one knew I was building something. A new brand, one hotel at a time, under a different name. I bought my first small property in cash, then another, then 5 more. By the time my parents' hotel started drowning in debt, my company was already valued at $180 million. Now, standing in that lobby again, dressed simply, I watched my mother smile at guests like she didn't just shut her own daughter out. "We don't take walk-ins," she said coldly. I nodded, pretending to check my phone, where my assistant's message blinked. "The transfer is done. You officially own Evercrest Hotels International, including their flagship property." I smiled. "Fully booked?" I whispered. "Not for long." The receptionist called the manager. My father stepped out, shocked to see me. "What are you doing here, Madeleine?" "Guests only." His tone was sharp, the same tone he used the day he told me I'd never succeed without the family name. I slowly pulled out my phone, opened an email, and said, "You might want to read this before you throw me out again." His eyes narrowed. He snatched the phone, read for a few seconds, and then his face turned pale. "Madeleine, what is this?" he muttered. I smiled. "A transfer of ownership. You just denied entry to your new boss." The silence that followed was worth every sleepless night I ever spent working. My father froze. The same man who once shouted in front of the entire staff that I was too soft for business. His hand trembled as he reread the document. My mother stepped closer, confused. "What's happening?" she asked. He didn't answer. He just kept staring at the screen, his lips parting slowly, his pride crumbling right in front of me. Guests nearby started whispering. The receptionist looked nervous. My father finally spoke, voice shaking. You bought us out?" I took a deep breath and said softly, "No, Dad. I bought everything. Every hotel under your name, every branch, every asset. You didn't even check who was behind the investor that saved your company last year, did you?" For a moment I saw guilt flicker in his eyes. But then, like always, his ego took over. "You're lying," he snapped. "You don't have that kind of money." I tilted my head, amused. "Then maybe you should call the lawyer. He has the documents." My mother grabbed his arm. "Paul, check the email." He turned toward the front desk, demanding the staff to print the ownership papers. The moment he saw the signature, Madeleine Carter, CEO of Skyline Holdings, his expression changed completely. Everyone around fell silent. Even the guests at the lounge could feel something big was happening. I could almost hear the sound of their disbelief filling the air. He looked up at me, trying to hold back his rage. "Why didn't you tell us?" he said quietly. I smiled, though inside I was shaking. "Because the last time I told you about my dreams, you told me to get out and never come back. So I left, and built everything you said I couldn't." My mother whispered, "Madeleine, we didn't mean—" "Oh, you meant every word," I interrupted. "You called me a failure, said I embarrassed the family name, remember? I begged you to believe in me, but you laughed. So I decided to build something you couldn't ignore. And now, you're standing in it." Her face turned pale. She looked around, realizing that the staff, the same ones who once mocked me, We're all watching. But before I could say more, my younger brother Ethan appeared from the hallway. He smirked when he saw me. Well, look who's back. What, couldn't find another couch to sleep on? The moment he said that, my father snapped at him. Ethan, enough. But I just laughed. Still the same arrogance, I said. You were always the golden boy, right? The one they trusted with everything. Funny how I was the useless daughter. Yet somehow I'm the one who owns it all now. His smirk faded instantly. You're bluffing, he said. I leaned closer, my voice calm but sharp. If I were bluffing, your access card wouldn't have stopped working 5 minutes ago. He looked down at his phone, realizing it had logged him out of the system. Panic flashed across his face. What did you do? I just changed the locks, I said. Welcome to the new management, the crowd gasped. My mother covered her mouth. My father whispered, Madeleine, please, this is our home. I looked at them, the same people who made me beg for approval, who turned me away when I needed them most, and said quietly, it was home, until you locked me out. And with that, I turned and walked toward the elevator. The doors closed slowly, but not before I caught one last glimpse of their stunned faces, frozen in the same disbelief I had lived with for years. They had no idea that this was just the beginning. The elevator doors opened to the top floor, the executive suite, the one that used to be my father's private office. I stepped inside, my heels clicking against the marble floor. The room was exactly how I remembered it, cold, expensive, and empty. The massive glass window overlooked the entire city, a city that had once felt too big for me. Now it felt small, controlled, owned. I walked to the desk, running my hand along the polished wood. That same desk where my father once sat, lecturing me about knowing my place. I could almost hear his voice echoing in my head. You'll never understand business, Madeleine. You don't have the mind for it. Well, guess what, Dad? Turns out I had the entire empire for it. My assistant, Claire, knocked softly on the door. Ma'am, the press just called. Someone leaked the ownership transfer documents. The media wants a statement. I smiled slightly. Let them run the story. The truth doesn't need hiding anymore. She hesitated. Ma'am, your family is downstairs. They're asking to speak with you privately. Of course they were. I knew it was coming. The apologies, the excuses, the fake regret. Still, I nodded. Bring them up. Moments later, the door opened again, and my parents walked in, looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. My father's arrogance had vanished. My mother's eyes were red. My brother trailed behind, silent for once. Madeleine, my father started, his tone suddenly soft. I know we've made mistakes, but this power play, it's not you. I raised an eyebrow. You think this is about power? He sighed. You humiliated us in front of our guests. Your mother can't even step outside right now. I laughed quietly. You humiliated me for years, Dad. I begged for a chance to prove myself, and you threw me out with nothing but a suitcase. You didn't just shut me out of the hotel. You shut me out of the family. He clenched his fists. We did it for your own good. I stepped closer. No, you did it for your pride. My mother finally spoke, voice trembling. Sweetheart, we were scared. You were so young, so ambitious. We thought you'd fail and ruin everything your father built. I looked at her for a long moment. And what did that fear cost you? She said nothing. I took a deep breath, then opened the laptop on the desk. You want to talk about the company? Fine, let's talk. You were drowning in debt, losing clients, firing loyal staff. If I hadn't stepped in anonymously last year, this entire chain would have been gone. I saved what you built. My father stared, speechless. I didn't buy this company to destroy you, I continued. I did it to protect what I believed in, even when you didn't believe in me. Tears welled in my mother's eyes. My brother shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet my gaze, but I wasn't finished. You spent your whole life chasing control, Dad. I spent mine chasing purpose. That's the difference between us. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. Finally, my father's voice cracked. What do you want from us, Madeleine? I looked out the window, the skyline reflecting in my eyes. Nothing, I said softly. Not revenge, not forgiveness, just peace. He took a shaky breath. And Will we ever get a second chance? I turned back to them with a faint, bittersweet smile. That depends on whether you've learned how to earn one. Then I walked past them, leaving the office that no longer held power over me. As the elevator doors closed once again, I finally felt it. Freedom. But deep down, I knew this story wasn't over. Not yet. Because when power shifts this drastically, there are always consequences waiting in the shadows. 2 days later, the world had already turned the story into a spectacle. Headlines screamed, "Disowned daughter secretly buys family's hotel empire. From homeless to billionaire. The Madeleine Cole story." Every channel, every post, every whisper carried my name. But behind the attention, something darker was moving. Something I could feel before I even saw it. It started with a small detail, a missing file, a strange email alert about unauthorized access. Then, an emergency meeting request from the board of directors. I knew the look in their eyes the moment I walked into that boardroom. Betrayal had a smell, and I could smell it in the air. "Madeleine," said Mr. Hensley, one of my father's oldest allies, his tone too polite. "There's been a review of your recent acquisition documents. It seems there might be irregularities." I tilted my head slightly. "Irregularities?" He nodded. "Anonymous sources have submitted proof that your acquisition may not have followed proper corporate process. If this is true, your ownership could be suspended pending investigation." I let out a slow, amused laugh. "Anonymous, huh? Let me guess, my father?" Hensley didn't answer. His silence said enough. I sat down, placed my phone on the table, and leaned forward. I expected this. That's why I recorded every meeting, every call, every transaction. All legal, all transparent. So if this board wants to play dirty, I'll happily make everything public, including your secret side deals with my father. A visible shiver went through the room. "You think I don't know?" I said calmly. "You all thought I was just a naive girl trying to prove herself. But while you were busy underestimating me, I was documenting everything." Mr. Hensley's smile faltered. "You're threatening the board?" "No," I said, standing up. "I'm educating the board." That's when the door burst open, and there he was. My father, the man who used to walk into every room like he owned it. But this time, the look in his eyes wasn't dominance. It was desperation. "Stop this madness, Madeleine!" he barked. "You're tearing this family apart." I turned slowly. "You already did that years ago." He stepped closer, voice trembling with anger. "You think money makes you powerful? You're still that little girl begging for approval." I met his gaze, unflinching. "No, Dad. I stopped begging the day you locked the door in my face." The room went dead silent. Everyone could feel it. That shift, that invisible line that could never be crossed again. Finally, I picked up my bag and turned toward the exit. "If any of you think you can take this company from me, go ahead and try. But remember one thing. I built my empire from nothing. You can't destroy what you never understood." As I left, my father's voice echoed faintly behind me. Soft, broken, almost human for the first time. "Madeleine, I didn't mean for it to end like this." I paused just long enough to whisper back, without looking at him. "It ended the day you stopped believing in me." The door shut, and with that, so did every tie that ever held me down. But as I reached the parking lot, my phone buzzed. An anonymous text popped up. "You may own the company, but you don't own the truth. Watch what happens next." My breath caught. For the first time in years, I felt fear. That night I couldn't sleep. The words from that text replayed in my head like a curse. "You may own the company, but you don't own the truth." It wasn't random. Someone close knew too much. By morning, things got worse. My assistant, Claire, burst into my office, pale and shaking. "Madeleine, someone leaked internal emails, private documents, contracts, everything. The media's tearing into us. They're saying you stole the company using forged signatures." I froze. Every headline I had once owned was now turned against me. Billionaire heiress fraud? Fake signatures, real scandal. I felt my chest tighten, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Trace the leak," I said. "Now, find out who had access." Hours later, the truth hit harder than any headline. The digital trace led directly to someone inside my team. Someone I had trusted. My own assistant, Claire. She stood there trembling when confronted. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. Your father reached out. He said it was just to review the old paperwork. I thought, you thought? I interrupted, voice sharp but low. You thought you could sell me out and everything would stay the same? Tears filled her eyes. He promised he'd clear my debts. I was desperate. For a long second, I didn't speak. I just looked at her, not with anger, but with something colder. Disappointment. You know what's funny, Claire? I hired you because I saw myself in you. Someone underestimated. Someone hungry. I never realized how far hunger could go. Before she could reply, my security chief stepped in. Ma'am, your father just called a press conference. He's claiming he's taking back control of the company. Says you're under investigation. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was war. Prepare the jet, I said quietly. Where to? Zurich, I replied. To the vault. Because while my father was busy playing public games, I had something he didn't know existed. The original ownership documents, sealed in a private Swiss vault, with video proof of every transaction. As the plane took off, city lights fading below, I stared out the window, my reflection barely visible against the dark sky. They want the truth? I whispered. Let's give them the real one. The next move wouldn't just clear my name, it would end the game entirely. But I also knew this was the point of no return.